We all know that real estate has created more millionaires than any other industry on the planet. We also know that it has created a lot of heartache due to mismanagement, overborrowing, and just simple life events that happen to all of us. Welcome to the Cash Flow Pro podcast. My name is Casey Brown, and I am your fearless leader. And although we might be bourbon sipping and at times foul-mouthed Southerners, we will always do our best to be honest, straightforward, and due diligent with all of the information we pass along to you. Welcome to the show. Hey there, and welcome to today's episode of Cash Flow Pro, your daily real estate investing podcast and YouTube channel. I'm here today with Mike Russo of SparkOffer.com. And Mike and I were just sitting here talking. As the listeners are well aware, I do a lot of talking prior to the episodes in order to make sure we bring you the best content at the perfect time. So anyway, Mike and I were sitting here talking. We were talking about all the different aspects of the home buying business right now, or really the home business in general, from offers and cash offers to, I was talking to him about some VA finding. I mean, we've talked about everything. So Mike's got a really neat story that I can't wait for you to hear. And so Mike, how are you today, sir?
I'm great. How are you, Casey?
Man, we're doing wonderful, blessed. My stepdad always says the wife hadn't left and the kids aren't in jail. So everything's good, you know. So Mike, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you came from and how you kind of got to where you're going. I know you said a little bit about it and said it was a very interesting story. So I'm kind of all ears to hear it. So let us know
Yeah, so I've been in real estate for about 20 years. I started in what was 2 weeks ago Realogy, and before that was Send It, and today's Anywhere. So it's the company that owns Coldwell Banker, Century 21, Sotheby's International Realty, Corcoran. Like I actually looked it up yesterday in their public filings. They did 1.5 million transaction sides in the United States last year, right?
Wow.
So that's where I started. I was in the franchise group at Coldwell Banker, then at Sotheby's International Realty when we acquired that. And in 2006, I had this bright idea that I wanted to be in brokerage, and I moved to Aspen, Colorado. It is one of the most beautiful places on earth.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I was supposed to be a partner there. I wound up owning it. I won't bore you with that story, but I owned the brokerage. I was doing well, running the business like you should, and the market crashed.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
I didn't see the signs were really everywhere. Right. They really were. But the market crashed. I literally lost everything. I had to short sell my home. I told my kids at the January 1st of 2020, and I said, 10 years ago, your mother, I have 5 children, right, with the same woman.
We've got,
my wife, and I said to my kids, 10 years ago, this is how your life can change with some luck, some blessing, and some hard work. And the hard work is a big component. Is in January 1st, 2010, your mother and I had $1,000 to our name. $1,000 to our name. And now we own multiple homes at Cash Flow. Well, certainly as a show about cash flow, we'll talk about that. But I wound up going in the auction business. And okay. I wound up becoming a partner in a firm that's called Concierge Auctions. It got acquired actually by Realogy and Sotheby's Auction House last November. And I left though in 2017. I sold my interest, but I auctioned $1 billion in luxury homes in 26 states and 17 countries, right? And wow. and there's a lot of things I learned. If anybody from your show, like you find me on Instagram, whatever, wants to talk to me about auctions, like I'll talk about auctions all day long, okay. Right? And because I'm a staunch believer that auctions do not maximize price for the seller, right? And it delivers speed and it delivers these, but there's
speed
other ways.
Is what I was. That's the first spot my mind stopped was, you're trading a little bit of the retailness for the speed, the retail loan process.
Like we're creating speed on SparkOffer without auctions.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. Go ahead with, yeah.
And but we'll get into that. I can go wherever you want. I mean, do you want to talk more about cash flow or how I look at properties, what I see in the market?
Well, the first thing I want to do is go back. I read an article yesterday that said that homes, and this is just for discussion purposes, but homes in Aspen, Colorado are in such high demand right now that you actually have the millionaires and the billionaires actually making the calls to the owners themselves and saying, "Hey, I'll buy that house." Like that, like they're not even employing an agent to go out and do this anymore. They're just like,
I mean, it very well could. I mean, I'll tell you, the one of the things that makes Aspen and the Roaring Fork Valley, it's very small. So the Roaring Fork Valley
"Yep,
comprises four towns: Aspen, Basalt, Carbondale, and Glenwood Springs. When I lived there, still in 2011, that it's a 45-mile stretch that has 25,000 people, right? Full-time residents. That's
yep."
it. Not
Isn't
many.
Glenwood Springs where Doc Holliday died?
Yep,
That's what I
absolutely.
thought.
And
I've been there.
so in Aspen itself, you know, I always tell people, if you forgot that location is the number one rule in real estate, like you need to go back to it,
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
And what makes Aspen unique, and this is actually a really good story as the market's shifting for people and investors and everybody else to think about, is that Aspen itself is surrounded by national forest on pretty much
Yep,
every side,
yep.
right?
You're exactly
So
right.
there's very little buildable land, right?
Yes,
And
sir.
that's what drives the prices, right? It's the lack of the ability to expand, right? And
Yep.
so that's number one. Number two, what we saw in the crash of '08, and this is really, really, if you're an investor, you need to think about this. Is for example, I live in a coastal town today in Marion, Massachusetts, that's near Cape Cod. I have a staunch rule. I don't buy anything in the flood zone, right?
I won't. I'm in real estate sales. I won't sell anything in a flood zone, and about 20% of our homes in where I'm at are in a flood zone. And I won't even. I'm just like, hey, if you want them, you got to go somewhere because I'm not dealing with it. I've
Yeah,
seen too many
right.
lawsuits. They want to claim. I saw a guy that was at our brokerage. He disclosed, and then had him sign a disclosure that said that they had signed a disclosure that it was in a flood zone. Like he had it basically a billboard on their file that said this house is in a flood zone, and he got sued.
You,
Got
you know,
sued, and the thing is that the other guy won. But the problem with being sued is you have to defend it.
Oh no, it actually is worse because I've had it. The worst problem is they go after you because you have E&O insurance, right?
Yeah,
And then the E&O company settles even if you're right. Even if you're
It's
right.
it's the damnedest thing I've ever seen. And you've got attorneys that are out there that are just waiting. Just waiting. And I'm not 100% sure now. Tell me if correct me if I'm wrong, but what will the E&O company not turn around and then come to you and say, or is that why I guess that's why we
No,
pay them a
no,
premium?
they when you make that claim on your E&O, they take over the litigation and then they're basically in control, right? So the only way you stay in control is if you don't make a claim on your
But
E&O
what I'm
insurance.
saying is when the E&O insurance pays out, like let's say they pay out a $250,000 claim, do they come back to the agent to try to recoup that or recoup part
No,
of it, or do
you have a deductible. You have to just pay your
you pay your
deductible.
deductible and go on? That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I've never had an E&O claim, and I've studied a little bit about it, but not
Hey,
enough
I
to.
was in the auction business. It is littered with litigation, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I want to go back to this is really important. So, what I was actually starting to talk about in regards to Aspen is the importance of location and the importance of location. Not only you're in Aspen, Colorado, for example, but also within that location of Aspen. So, when
Yeah.
our market corrected in 2008, the core, because people would say like our prices never go down, and so but the core of Aspen, what's considered the town itself, Red Mountain, those are the primary areas of Aspen. They didn't get hurt. Sales slowed, they didn't get hurt. Now I will tell you, some people wound up selling for less years later, what have you, but what really got hurt was that fringe, right? The neighborhood that was the
Yes.
residential neighborhood for locals, that somebody now put up an $8 million spec house in that neighborhood because there was no more room in the core of Red Mountain, so they built something there. And that's where people really, really had the most damage. And it doesn't matter whether it's whatever town you live in Kentucky or what town I live in Massachusetts. Every place has its like the real place that everywhere wants to be,
Yep.
right? And as far as I'm concerned, the hardest thing that everybody's retraining themselves for is the pandemic through like everything out the window, right?
Yep.
So we just had a house on SparkOffer in my little town, on a house that I could have bought in 2018 for 475,000
Okay.
that would not cash flow, right? I didn't buy it because it wouldn't cash flow.
Yep.
And I can tell you a gazillion houses in my town from 2018 and 19 that I didn't buy because they wouldn't cash flow, right? Okay, so now the pandemic happens. We get people, Airbnbs on the rise. We're getting people that we didn't have before. That house resells in 2020 for 550, nothing done to it, right? By the way, it's smack dab in my village, which is where people want to be because you can walk to the general store, you can walk to the post office, you can walk to the yacht club,
Yep.
right? Things you can't write in a real estate description, but
Yep.
hopefully I can say on your show. So that house, I can't say, it was just on SparkOffer. It just went under contract for near double what it sold for in 2018, and they did nothing to it.
4 years. So you're talking about 400. You're talking about.
It sold for 475,
And then it just went under contract for like 950.
It's not that high. I said it's near double, but
Near double. Okay.
It has an 8 in front of it, not a 9.
Gotcha.
But that's a massive increase for a 3-bedroom, 1,700 square foot house.
And I'll tell you what, and I've seen it repeatedly here, repeatedly, where like things are double. Basically, I mean, I've seen houses. I was just sitting here thinking as you were talking about that through a foreclosure that went for sale, and this is a little more timeline, but like 2011, 2012, and 10 years later sells for 2.5 times. It went under contract or sold in 2011 or 12 like 96,000. And then it just sold. As a matter of fact, my wife just sold it a couple of weeks ago to some clients, and it brought 215, 220, somewhere along that line. And I'm just like, I scratch my head a little bit because but one element to this that I think we've talked as where this discussion has gone, it seems to be over like where property values are right now. But it seems to me, at least through the real estate sales side of things, that we're dealing with a little better educated buyer. I mean, at least it seems that way. Like some of this.
I don't know if they're better educated, but they got more money.
That's the truth. That is the dang sure truth. Absolutely.
I mean, I was walking up the street today, literally walking my dog, and this woman that I see, she says, "Hey, what does it mean when I have a 10-day home inspection period?" And I said, "Did you go buy a house?" And she said, "Yeah, I bought a house in Rhode Island." And I said, "Didn't you have an agent?" "No, I didn't. I just walked in, open house, made an offer. I'm buying the house." Right. And Rhode Island's not that far from me, right? So I'm like, "Why are you buying a house in Rhode Island?" "I just like it down there. I'm going to use it. I'm going to Airbnb it, what have you." And then I have a really, really simple cash flow calculation on asset value.
Yeah.
And like, I'm like, "Hey, what does the place bring for rent?" She tells me she's paying like 500 grand. And she tells me the number. I do a quick calculation. I say, "Well, at a 5% cap rate, this house only worth 320, right? That's at 5% cap rate."
Wow.
So, and she, you know what her answer is? "I don't care, like, because I'm going to use it." Right. And that's the part that, like, who knows what happens, right? Like, will people really need rents to support this stuff? Did they really buy it with enough cash and they're going to use it and just offset their expenses and they don't care? Right. And then everybody's talking about the fact that we didn't build enough homes, but I'm actually like, that's crap. Right. I'm on the believer like that's crap.
Yep.
Right. What I'm a believer in is that there's so many homes being pulled out of inventory right? Whether it's this woman, whether it's the SFRs, whether it's the mom and pop rental, which I'm a mom and pop rental, so I'm not
Sure.
knocking it,
Sure.
but it's just happening on such mass scale that there's less homes for the people that want to buy. And I don't know that necessarily continuing to build out communities where there is buildable land, that's necessarily going to affect the change of that, because people don't necessarily want to be there.
Yeah, that's right. And then, yeah, because they still want to be in that area. Like you said, no matter where you build, they want to be right there close to where they can walk and see and do. And, all right. So I want to get into just a little bit about maybe some of the framework of SparkOffer. So, we were talking about the fact that sellers don't necessarily get what their house is worth at a regular auction. And then, of course, you also have the people that sell on the retail side that say, well, I don't want to auction it because I want to get a little more out of it. But then you have the risk of, well, home inspections, and you don't have that 10 or 15% down in cash that's non-refundable that says you can't back out of this contract. So you have a little bit. And then I feel like, at least I think this SparkOffer falls somewhere in between those two, like the
Yeah.
weighted risk and the
Number one is SparkOffer literally is a marketplace. It's a software marketplace that people that list their homes with an agent, right? I want to be specific about that.
okay,
Can have that house for sale, accepting offers on SparkOffer, right?
okay,
I we do have transparency like an auction,
okay,
right? I don't advocate for it, but I've learned over 20 years people don't always want to do what I believe.
that's right,
We do have the ability to just set price. Somebody But we also have the ability, which is what's most widely used, is that the price is hidden, right? Just like a standard offer. The system will tell people if they rank first, second, or third by price,
okay,
so they know where they stand. And it gives the buyer or the buyer's agent the ability to put in basic terms. Am I a mortgage buyer or am I cash buyer? Right? Do I want a home inspection? Do I want a mortgage contingency? And then a small text box for everything else.
okay,
So if I'm the buyer, the buyer's agent, I might be competing. I might be getting a mortgage, and I might be competing against a cash offer, and I might be the highest. But the seller still has to select me, right? They still
that's right,
have to pick me.
yep,
And so the system, what it does is it gives them some transparency, right? Not full transparency unless you want it, but some transparency. And then it allows, what we know when you're a practitioner is it's not all about price, right? Other
yep.
terms come into play.
And
And so
I always tell sellers when you're meeting with them back that those are like almost non-quantifiable in a way. Like
they are.
and I say, hey, just because this person can close in 20 days and this person can close in 30 days, it comes down to which one is more valuable to you as a
Well,
benefit.
so I'm glad you brought that up, because people often say to me a couple things. One, why do you only rank by price? Right? Because why don't you rank on cash versus mortgage or down payment or what have you? And I say it's impossible to quantify that. I don't know what that's worth to the seller. I can't create something that says this is what it's worth to the person that owns the property, right?
Yep.
So we have to go with the basic common thing, which is what's the price.
Yep.
And so but no,
Now,
it
don't get me
really,
wrong. Price is always the tip top of that pyramid. There's
that's
just
right.
other things that come into play, but
That's right.
price is definitely the number one ranking thing. I mean, it has to be.
Yeah. And so one of the things I told you before the call, and I want to make sure to bring this up to add value to your listeners, is that our main inventory source is REO homes. That's what we're bringing. We do have agents that put their own listings on. I want to encourage more agents to bring their listings on. There's a lot of great stuff that we're doing on the platform, but the nice thing about bank owned, it's a very consistent inventory source, right?
Sure.
And so and there's a couple things that we're doing in that market. Is number one is we're creating faster speed. Like if you've ever bought a home, if anyone on the show has ever bought a home that was an REO home, a lot of times it takes you weeks just to get a decision.
Sure.
Our properties are offering get a decision in one business day, as long as your paperwork's correct. So once you in the top offers, you got to get your paperwork in. That's where the rubber meets the
Yep.
road, right?
Yep.
So that's number one. Number two is we only charge a $4.95 fee for that, right? We're not charging 2, 3, 4, 5%. These auction platforms charge 5%.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we believe that we provide a good value at a good fee to everybody for a premium service on getting real time feedback on your offers.
Sure.
So, but what do we see in that data? And so you probably have a lot of listeners that aren't cash buyers. We're seeing it all over the web. I was telling you before, I'm on these Facebook groups and all this stuff, and there's all these wholesalers out there trying to, say I've got deals, and I've had them send me deals, and overpriced is overpriced. Doesn't matter whether it's a wholesale deal or it's a regular retail listing with an agent.
Correct.
I consider myself, quite frankly, a prophet of pricing, right?
Yep.
And the key to what I did in the auction business was repricing homes in 26 states and 17 countries, right?
That's still impressive to me. I couldn't believe it when you told me, but that's when you're talking about, because there's so many different cultural elements, I feel like, that come into play.
Oh, don't even get me started. The people think things are expensive here. In Italy, you have to pay your lawyer 1.5%. They don't get paid $1,000.
That sounds about right. Right? That sounds about right.
So if you're buying a home and you don't have cash, what we're seeing in the data is that the non-cash buyers, and I'm talking about the alternative financing buyers, are not getting selected over cash because their funding source has no brand to it, right? It's like, where is it coming from, right? That's always the question. Where is the money coming from? Are they really going to close? And a lot of times those answers aren't good, right? Yep. And I could tell you, even for us, we're trying to explore how to bring a consistent funding source on that, to SparkOffer. So, we have somebody that, hey, you're a hard money, you're a fix and flip lender, right? Come to us, and, so we can have a consistent something that the servicer can trust. Hey, if I take this additional offer, like, I know it's going to get closed in 30 days.
Yep.
Right.
Or have it where where SparkOffer says, I've done a lot of studying on this, the psychology of money, really. And when you start thinking about, and I've done a lot of thinking too, when you start thinking about what is money, what is money? Well, it's paper. No, it's basically, and when you derive everything down, it's basically me saying, hey, Mike, I'll give you little tidbits of my time in the form of dollars, or vice versa. And it basically, you derive it all the way down, but it's people that stand behind it. And it's always saying, hey, if you came to me and said, hey, if I've done deals with you before and you've got cash, you've closed them cash, everything's fine. You come to me and say, hey, I'm going to buy that, write a cash contract. I'm not even going to be like, hey, we need to get the bank. We need to go get a letter. We need to do this. We need to do that, because I've done it 15 times. And so when you start looking at that and you say, okay, hey, who could stand good? Like, if somebody puts a house on there, is there a way to have that home underwritten? But I guess the borrower and the borrower's ability to pay the interest as the time goes really probably plays into it more than, because I've always heard hard money lenders, the big thing is, well, they loan on the property, not the borrower. But I think that's a little bit of a falsehood, right?
I don't know. I think they loan on both, right? I think they loan on both. I mean, you've got to, at a minimum, have the money to put down, and they're going to have to already have verified that. And that's where it's about process. I could get a letter from a hard money lender saying that they're going to lend me X amount of dollars to buy this and I'm going to close. But if their process is loose and they didn't actually verify the borrower and where their funds are coming from, then it's going to fall apart in the transaction. And
Yeah.
that's why, having all of that, if you don't have, for me, that's why I'm trying to find sort of that, consistent brand that says they have this process and we know if they come through the pipe that they're going to get to close because they did what they needed to up front.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's
And
almost like a human almost has to do that too, as far as the back end stuff. And that's, I think, where some of
sure,
that
they
stuff
have to
gets
basically be underwritten.
current.
Right.
Well, yeah, yeah. I mean, and that's where I think some of the clog happens is just you go buy a house right now and you get any bank to finance it. The daggone underwriting. I mean, they're like you might get a call that says, "Hey, they're 3 weeks behind today," and that's we're not even in line yet. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yep. No,
So
absolutely.
yeah, that's
So
that's
that's my advice for those that out there that are. I would say two things. If you're a wholesaler out there, you know what? Know your market and know that you have a good deal. I've had people floating me packages, and I look at these things and I look at them like that, and I'm like, these are overpriced,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah,
And you're not gonna trade deals. Like there's people already. I'm like, don't send me anything. Your stuff's not. I lose time. I lose in your case. I lose currency because I got to make money somewhere else,
that's right. That's right. Well,
right?
you got to make more money the next minute to cover up for the minute that you lost.
That's right.
The one part of that I you know I like the fact that you have a motivated seller though, from a business perspective, and like building that you've got a steady flow of it,
We
what
have a
seems
real
like.
seller.
Yeah, yeah, somebody that can respond within a business day, and as long as the information's correct and everything's there. That's a little bit the way that HUD Home Store, I guess, used to operate. Of course, we haven't had any repos and repo sales lately, so it's hard to tell what they've changed and done. But they would respond the next day at 10 o'clock. You would get an email that said whether your offer was accepted or not or whatever, and so um, but then your paperwork had to be right within, I think, 48 hours or something like that.
That's
But
right.
nevertheless, so
Hi, this is Casey Brown, host of the Cash Flow Pro podcast and YouTube channel. Have you been thinking about investing in real estate but just don't know where to begin? I'd like to help by inviting you to check out our website at www.3000capital.com. There you will find an array of material that will help you learn all about real estate syndication. And while you're there, be sure to check out our free video series download titled 5 Must Know Keys to Success in Passive Real Estate Investing. I'd also like to personally thank you for making Cash Flow Pro part of your day. Now, back to the show.
well, listen, it's been a pretty interesting discussion. We've covered a lot of topics. The main thing that I'd like for people to kind of take away from this is maybe a little bit more about how they could, if they wanted to nudge their agent towards maybe getting educated about SparkOffer or something like that, because I think you have a lot of agents out there that are even potentially looking for a way to mitigate some of this stuff, like as far as the accept, like not necessarily actually accepting and moving forward with the contract, but even how to mitigate saying, hey, here it is, don't call me, here it is, put your offer in and let's go. How could they maybe learn a little more about it and nudge it
Yeah,
along?
so they can email me at mike@sparkoffer.com. I talk a lot about, we do videos almost every day on Instagram and TikTok at mike.s.russo or spark.offer.
Okay.
So the and so but we freely share information. We're coming out with a Spark Offer certified agent program. We charge a low annual fee for them to use the platform. So there's a lot that we're really generating the system around these investor homes,
Sure.
right? And so we're getting other homes too. We in 2019 we were doing luxury homes, and that'll probably come back too, right?
Yeah. Well, I feel
In two,
like I feel like there's going to hit a time where you're going to have to maybe
what I'm trying to say, like focus maybe a little bit more on the retail sellers, because these investors, they seem to, everything with investors seems to come in bulk. At least from my experience, it does. It's like once everybody starts getting on a train, we load the trains down, and when the first person starts getting off, then all of a sudden it's a rush to the gate. And that's what I like. But
I think
I'm
everything's a pricing game, right? And
oh,
we
price
went we
control is
went from
99% of it.
2019. National Association of Realtors said that 40% of the properties had to be repriced at least once to sell. And now we just saw news that said in the last month, 1 in 5 homes, which is 20%, just repriced, right? And so
That's
the sellers are getting too far ahead of themselves, right? With SparkOffer, this is my pitch, Casey, is that you're going to see whether people want to make offers or not, and you're going to notice it quickly. So that's the models we're building. We put houses on the market. If we don't have offers in 10 days, we're working with the investor to get the price adjusted to drive offers, right? That's the name of the game, right? Can't sell without an offer.
That's right. That's right. And you can't sell without you can't sell.
Realistic price.
Correct. That's right. And you have to have motivation on all sides, and of course where they meet, that's the market. So anyway, well, listen, there's a couple of questions we ask every guest that comes on here. I usually save the contact for the end, but I really like that Spark Offer
Sorry.
thing. Really, no, that's my fault. I went into that a little bit early, but just because I really want people to go to that Spark Offer, your website, and check it out, because from a standpoint of selling and the standpoint of nudging your agent towards using something like that, could alleviate a lot of the intricacies of accepting multiple offers, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Because it can get, I know people always want to operate without an agent. They don't want to pay the commission. They don't want to this. They don't want to that. They don't want somebody telling them what to do, whatever the case is. But the fact of the matter is you can get tangled really quick in the way things are right now. So anyway, but there's a couple of questions that we ask everybody that comes on the show. The first question I got for you is what is the best book that you have read or are currently reading?
Oh, you know what? The book I'm reading now is by Ken Fisher, the guy from Fisher Investments. It's called Markets Never Forget, but People Do. It's really good, right? And so what he's doing is he's drawing back 100 years on what the stock market has done, what it looks like when it's going into recession, why the recession comes later, while then what the stock market does, and then where the recession ends. And the patterns are all there. It's really good. It's data rich. Anybody that wants to think about what we're going through right now, that we're still seeing this massive real estate market, but the stock market's down. Nasdaq's in bear territory. S&P's heading there. Right.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
really, really worth reading.
Yeah, well, that's great, man. That's awesome. Yeah, we always like new books to read. Don't have to check that out. All right. So the next question is what is the best vacation that you have ever taken or hope to take? Dream vacation.
I've been on some good vacations. I've been some good places in general. I sold properties in 26 states and 17 countries. And when
Sure.
we were building Concierge Auctions, 30% of our auctions were in Hawaii.
Oh,
Right.
man. I bet that's nice.
Yeah. So I've been to Hawaii, like, I don't know, 50 something times.
Wow.
I was there for work. So, I have two great vacations. One is my last vacation that I went on with the kids, which was pre-pandemic. We went to, somewhere in Mexico, south of Cancun, north of Tulum, called Barcello. This resort called Barcello is really awesome, right?
Oh, wow.
And then the one before that, when the kids were a little younger, we went to beaches in Turks and Caicos. Like, that doesn't suck. It's awesome.
Yeah, there's nothing about Turks and Caicos that doesn't suck, even if you were like homeless. If you were homeless on Turks and Caicos, you'd be winning in my book. So anyhow,
Probably.
well, listen, Mike, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. We certainly do appreciate it, and I hope the listeners have got some insight into possibly looking or nudging their agents into at least
educating themselves about SparkOffer, because
Well, I look forward to you and your wife joining SparkOffer.
Well, we're certainly going to look at it, and I'm going to get with you the next week or so about doing that, because it's really interesting to me. And again, I think it takes away a lot of the tangledness that could potentially happen in a lot of those situations. So,
Absolutely.
But again, thank you so much for your time, and thanks for educating our listeners. And I hope everybody has a wonderful day. And don't forget, if you like today's episode and you've learned hopefully what you came here to learn, or maybe even a little bit more, please leave us a 5-star review, and write a review and a 5-star rating, please. We do appreciate all of those, and we appreciate everybody listening today. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Cashflow Pro is hosted by Casey Brown, founder and CEO of 3000 Capital, a commercial real estate investment firm committed to providing its investors with ongoing cash flow and helping them build long-term wealth. If you enjoyed today's podcast, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you'll be notified about all our future episodes. You can find more information about us and our investment philosophy by clicking the link in the show notes below. Thanks for listening.